Alonzi. The Doctor first flew onto our screens in 1963 with the first Doctor played by William Hartnell. This BBC-produced show was depicted as a science fiction about a Time Lord who steals a time machine called the TARDIS to gallivant across worlds and universes. This is Utter Animus and your host Lulu, and today we are doing a midnight binge of Doctor Who. Since its 1963 airing, Doctor Who was cancelled in 1989. An attempted revitalization happened in 1993, but Doctor Who wouldn't whoosh back onto our screens until 2005. In its original series, Doctor Who was meant to be an educational show which utilizes the time machine to travel time and explore important historical events and moments. However, that was soon abandoned, and the series became what it is known for today, with a dash of historical moments, loads of different planets and aliens, and a twisted sense of humor sometimes. Oh, obviously, spoilers. The Doctor doesn't die like us merry old humans. Instead, the Doctor regenerates. However, this regeneration has a price that not too many fans are too keen for it to happen when it does happen. The Doctor becomes an entirely new person when they regenerate. The Doctor describes regeneration as physically and mentally dying. Everything that made them, them, essentially dies. Also, if the Doctor reaches their 13th incarnation, they in fact really actually die. The Time Lords only have 12 regenerations and die on their 13th. But it's a little more complicated than that, especially regarding the Doctor. While they are their most powerful before and during regenerations because of the immense energy it takes to regenerate, the Doctor is also at their weakest in this state. If the Doctor dies while regeneration, they truly die. As of 2021, the Doctor has had 13 official regenerations. This is where it gets all wibbly wobbly because, Time Lord. The 13 official Doctors are William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, John Pertwee, Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McCann, Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, and Jodie Whittaker. However, the 10th Doctor, played by David Tennant, regenerates once without changing or actually regenerating. The War Doctor, played by the late John Hurt, for Doctor Who's 50th anniversary, never considered himself the Doctor due to the horrific actions and decisions that he had to make during the Time War. Then there is Ruth Clayton, a doctor on the run with her personality hidden within a fob watch thanks to a chameleon arch. This Doctor is played by Joe Martin during the 13th Doctor's time, so technically there has been 16 incarnations of the Doctor. The idea of the Doctor regeneration came about when William Hartnell, the first Doctor, became ill during his time as the Doctor. In order to keep the newly formed series going, the writers came up with regeneration. Since then, when an actor's time is up for whatever reason, their incarnation passes on the mantle of being the Doctor to another. When the first female Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, took up the mantle, there were many questions and concerns that Jodie Whittaker could be, in fact, the last. Once again, this is because a Time Lord can only regenerate 12 times, making their 13th incarnation usually their last. During the 11th Doctor's, Matt Smith's times, Clara, the then companion of the Doctor, begged the other Time Lords to give the 11th Doctor more time. The Time Lords seemingly obliged, allowing the 11th to regenerate into the 12th Doctor, Peter Capaldi. At first, it was believed that the other Time Lords gave the Doctor more regenerations, allowing them to regenerate 12 more times. However, regeneration just got a whole lot more complicated thanks to the Master, one of the Doctor's arch enemies, but, spoilers. And it's also supremely complicated and not quite fleshed out because this is the storyline of the latest Doctor, which isn't finished. But I'll give you 2 words: timeless child. Opinion. Everybody has their own Doctor. The Doctor that introduced them to the series that they, fell in love with. Mine, the 10th Doctor. I watched my first episode, which was David Tennant's first episode, The Christmas Invasion. The 10th Doctor will always be a personal favorite, but I do implore you to not skip a Doctor. While you can pretty much start from anywhere and not miss much, the series is pretty much self-contained with, their storylines. I do actually advise not doing so. Mostly this is because timelines, storylines, companions, and more bleed into current seasons and current doctors. A prime example of this is River Song, a companion that first popped up onto our screens during the 10th Doctor's timeline. However, her timeline goes all the way to the 12th Doctor, and her timeline is immense and confusing. So no skipping. Time and relative dimension in space. Named by Susan Foreman, one of the first Doctor's companions, TARDIS, TARDIS, is short for time and relative dimension in space. The TARDIS is a time machine and the most faithful companion of the Doctor. Every TARDIS is equipped with a chameleon circuit, a unique piece of technology that hides the TARDIS within its environment so that it blends into whatever planet or time it lands on. However, the Doctor's TARDIS's chameleon circuit is broken, and the TARDIS form is stuck as a 1963 blue police box, which, when the TARDIS landed on Earth for the first time, it was, in fact, the 1960s, and police boxes were a very common sight at the time. When the chameleon circuit is broken for the outside of the TARDIS, it still retains the ability to change on the inside. During the episode The Doctor's Wife, Idris, or the TARDIS, the Doctor wished really, really hard, mentioned that she had 30 console rooms archived, but the Doctor has only regenerated about a dozen times. The console room typically changes their design and style when the Doctor regenerates. Not always, but this isn't an unusual thing that happen. A neat fact about the TARDIS is that it's kind of alive. This is because TARDISes are grown, and it sometimes depends on the season how alive the TARDIS actually is. However, it is evident that she, in fact, has a soul at the very least, because the Doctor's wife, the TARDIS's soul, gets transplanted into a living person, Idris. The TARDIS's soul has even been in a companion, Rose Tyler, which unfortunately didn't end well. The TARDIS is the Doctor's oldest and most faithful companion. With a busted navigation, it doesn't always take the Doctor where they want to go, but it always takes them where they need to go. The Doctor shouldn't travel alone. The Doctor has had many companions. They joined and left for their own reasons. Those who have had the privilege in being the Doctor's companion tend to have a similar sentiment when they leave. Don't allow the Doctor to travel alone. Now, I'm not saying that the Doctor hasn't traveled alone before, because they have. It's just not advised that they do so. And why, one might ask? Should the Doctor not travel alone? Because the companions make the Doctor human. Companions ground the Doctor. Now remember, the Doctor is anywhere between 900 to almost 2,000 years old. The Doctor has saved worlds, universes, people, and aliens over and over. They have had to make unspeakable decisions, but the Doctor's companions, the Doctor's friends, are so much bigger on the inside and very important. Pun intended. Opinion. Favorite companion. It's a mixed bag, honestly. Donna Noble is definitely on the top of my list, making her appearance on a Christmas episode, The Runaway Bride. Unless you want to get technical, then her first appearance would be at the end of Doomsday. She wouldn't be a permanent companion until season 4. Donna's banter with the 10th Doctor is hilarious and a breath of fresh air, especially after the romantic pinings of Rose Tyler and Martha Jones. Nothing against it, just lovely to watch 10 and Doctor just enjoying time and space together. Nothing more. Another companion on the top of my list is Amelia Pond, more commonly known as Amy, and her husband, Rory. Out of the companions, Amy and Rory are actually one of the few couples that become companions. Sure, companions get married, have boyfriends or girlfriends, but they don't usually travel together. Sometimes falling in love is one of the main reasons why a companion leaves. Amy is a complicated child woman. I say child because that's how the Doctor meets her, as a young girl, as he is regenerating from 10 to 11. Now, Rory is a bit cynical of. I was a bit cynical of, because male companions don't always have the best of luck. At first, I thought that Rory would be an unfortunate rehash of Mickey Smith or even Danny Pink, Rose Tyler's boyfriend, Mickey, or Clara Oswald's boyfriend, Danny, and eventual husband to Martha Jones, Mickey. However, Rory is a supremely rational, logical, and even calm character, pretty much asking all the right questions and saying all the right things. He's also a nurse, making him essentially a very kind person, but he's a hero in his own right, too. Tick-tock goes the clock, even for the Doctor. Doctor Who became the longest running science fiction series with 862 plus episodes. It surpassed shows such as Star Trek and The X-Files, and was even awarded a place in the Guinness Book of Records. It has come with a few spin-offs such as Torchwood, The Sarah Jane Adventures, Class, K9 and Company, and so many more. It has gained cult following with a robust fandom called Whovians, and they're divided in two sometimes, old Whovians and new Whovians, because once again, the Doctor started in 1963 and then regained popularity in 2005. So if you're part of the 2005 fandom, you're technically called new Whovians, and those who have watched it since the 1963 era are typically called old Whovians. Just a distinguished moment. Not only is it the longest running series, it has fulfilled some firsts, such as the first female and the first Black, Asian, and minority ethnic Doctor, or BAME, and played by Jodie Whittaker and Joe Martin. Doctor Who has been gracing our screens once again since 1963, and it was originally canceled in 1989. Doctor Who received the axe midway through Sylvester McCoy's incarnation due to its poor viewership. In 1996, there was an attempt to revitalize the program in a televised film, basically a standalone pilot, but the attempt was unsuccessful. Doctor Who wasn't relaunched successfully until 2005. Unfortunately, Doctor Who has been in the rumor mill with a possible cancellation once again. Due to the pandemic, season 13 of Doctor Who has been postponed until 2021 or even further. While it would be sad to see the Doctor leave our screens once again, if the first cancellation has told us anything, that sometimes a hiatus isn't the worst thing to happen, and that the Doctor will always regenerate. Before I wrap things up, please consider supporting this podcast at either Buy Me a Coffee or on Patreon or right here on Anchor with supporting this blog. And I hope you guys remain well and healthy and happy and content. And until next time, Geronimo.